それではお時間となりましたのでスタートさせていただきます。
This
2024
year, ACK Talks will hold a program to examine art, society, and our own resilience from a variety of perspectives with the aim of enhancing conference functions and building a community centered on culture and the arts. In addition to the field of art, we have invited experts from various fields such as politics, economics, fashion, architecture, and food to present 9 sessions that cross a variety of fields covering trends in the world art scene, the current state of the market, learning through art, and the connections between people. This talk, titled Online Artist Talk with Tomás Saraceno, we will welcome Tomás, an Argentinian artist based in Berlin, as our guest to hear about the production and philosophy of an artist who creates work based on ongoing research and cross-boundaries between diverse fields, including art, architecture, natural science, astrophysics, and engineering. We will hear about the artist's philosophy and his work. And Mr. Saraceno will be in Copenhagen for an exhibit of his new work and will participate online. Today's moderator will be art critic and Artnet News professional editor, Andrew Russeth.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here and delighted to see people in the audience on this rainy day. Thank you for braving the weather to come in. I am joined by, on the screen, Tomás Saraceno. I'll introduce him very briefly, although I'm sure many people here are familiar with his work. Tomás was born in 1973 in Argentina. He's now based in Berlin. And what I always think about him is, you know, today we often say that artists help us change perspective or see the world in a new way. I think that's often not true of the people we say about it. But with Tomás, I think that actually really is true. He really lets us see the world, see the universe through these remarkable different perspectives. His practice has predominantly rotated around 2 enduring interests, one of which is spiders. The other is flight, solar-powered flight, which I'm hoping that we're going to dive into. The theme of ACK, as I imagine people in the audience know, is resilience, and his work speaks to it really perfectly. Through the space flight, or through the solar flight program, through his study of spiders, he looks at collaborations that interact with the environment in a way that promotes resilience and finds ways of collaborating and working with diverse groups of people. I'm delighted that he's able to join us because just last night in Copenhagen, he opened a new permanent installation at the planetarium there, which is called Cosmic Threads. And yeah, without further ado, I should also mention he just had a child, which is exciting. So there's a lot going on. So if you'll join me in a round of applause and a thank you for Tomás for joining us. Tomás, again, thank you for doing this. Maybe to start
Thank you, Andrew.
with this new project in Copenhagen, Cosmic Threads. For people who haven't seen the photos, and I should also mention Tomás has brought an 800-slide slideshow. We're not going to be able to cover all of it, but we will have an opportunity to jump around. So yeah, if you haven't seen photos of this work, it's astonishing what you've done at the planetarium. Could you sort of talk through what you've done?
Yeah, if I can share an image, let me see. 1 second. Yeah, maybe there. 1 second, view. Sure. You can see the images also now, Andrew?
We can only see you at the moment. I think there was a lag of a second last time, so maybe it'll pop up.
Yeah. I just took an image from the internet, from the WhatsApp too. Maybe, because I kind of share the screen. There we go, perfect. Fantastic. This is one of the images from yesterday. But yeah, I want to start. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, the Art Fair and you, Kako, for the invitation. It's my honor and pleasure to be today with all of you. And yeah, I hope so. Have a good time. We will scroll through some ideas and images. And yeah, thank you, Andrew, for having your time also to try to delve into this topic of resilience. And it just came to my mind with this cosmic threat, no? And then how, you know, sometimes biology have measured resilience in relationship with that image might disorientate a little bit. I thought to talk about that, but then I got another thought. But that, let me go, and then we go back to this. 1 second. I want to look at some of my companion spider friends. Where they are. There we go. Yeah, this is quite beautiful also. That was also is a picture in a planetarium where some spiders have weaved some webs. And this means what, you know, usually they say that spiders have lived on the planet almost 300 million years, while humans only 210,000 years. This means there's like a huge difference between how much they have been living on this planet. Now, biology said that usually resilient or somebody knows how to become resilient to a certain habitat is when you have lived minimum 5 million years. That's one of them. The way that you could also learn how resilient you might be with a certain environment. Now, this means there is a long way to go still for the Homo sapiens, wherever in this stage we might find ourselves. Now, with that distinction, I think so it's very important also not to fall in the trap of the Anthropocene, right? And I think so, like, better talk like Jason Moore talk about a Capitalocene. And this means, I think so it's very, very important also to distinguish which type of humans and which type of cultures today still exist on the planet, and which one I somehow have been more and more fascinated in relationship of their ability to live on this planet and to entangle their lives in ways that are pretty interesting. This means spiders from one side, yes, and what it have fascinated me a lot is the spider web, just to try to think that this embodied cognition, what Andrew said is different perspective, right? Of trying to think from also the perspective of the spider web and think us through as part of the body of the spider, right? And then the other ones are, you know, many cultures who still, they have this respect and this relationship within a larger web of life that is pretty much different than the one that somehow, let's say, the age of the capitalism is defining a huge era in the planetary shift, right? And in this case, I don't know, I just can talk about a little bit the spider diviners in Cameroon, Bolo, right? Here is when we visit him on Sommier, and his method of divination and try to communicate with spiders through symbols and cards and vibrations and so forth and so on. But I leave you there because it get maybe too long, Andrew.
Well, I'm glad you bring up vibrations, because before coming to your work, I was totally unaware of the fact that many spiders, certain species, can't see, and they use these webs and the vibrations that come from them as a way to perceive the world. And I love the way in which, at your Shed show, for example, in New York, you created this kind of giant-sized spider web, in a way, as I understand it, to kind of show that way of experiencing the world. A big question for you is, you know, I know spiders have held your attention for so long, and I'm curious why that is, you think, and what are the sort of lessons that you've drawn from them about their ability to survive?
Yeah, here I don't know. Yeah, I'm sharing some of the images that Andrew you brought up in the installation at the Shed also, which was this kind of gigantic, quite old, almost 30-meter diameter space, which many times also it will start. is what we are installing. During the, we kind of, you could see, but then people will be able to enter, and then we will encourage them to also lay down and sit down. As much connection you will have to this mesh, you will be able to feel better the vibration of the spiders that we have pre-recorded, and then it will go completely pitch dark. This means you will enter also kind of a mode of perception that, the majority of spider weave webs, they are very, very, very poor in vision. They almost don't see the world through their eyes. Then there are spiders who do not weave webs, and they have very good vision, the jumpy spider. But the one who weave webs, mostly they see. And this, was trying to then, what you have been done through many years is record spider web vibration and the way that they perceive the world through these webs, and how they can communicate one to each other through the way of how this web vibrate, through very sensitive microphones that we have developed through the years, and in collaboration also with other scientists and other universities, and then also try to learn this different mode of talking, and there are many signals that somehow we can also reproduce and try to understand the meaning of some of these signals. And then for me also, what is quite amazing, when then go back to Pierre Bolo, this spider diviner in Cameroon. Cameroon is one of the countries in the world who have more alive languages. I think so, more than 700 languages are still alive and being used. A lot of diversity, right? And this, I always think like, oh my God, but then they know also how to talk with spiders, right? Which is a millenary traditions of really communicate with others. And what Pierre Bolo does also, which is quite of an interesting, let me go back. You pose the question to the spider, and now I get lost within my own presentation. But wait a minute, where is Pierre Bolo? Here. Okay, and yeah, it take a time to kind of see it. Yeah, there is a pot, and there is a hole, and it is an underground spider who lives mostly under the ground. He plays a set of cards based on the question that you are asking to the spider. He kind of interpret that question, and they talk Mambila language, but he's able then later with a small stone to vibrate this pot, and with this vibration talk with the spider. And then after this process of translation into vibration mode of this earth where the spider lives, then the spider sometimes very quickly come out, or sometimes could take days. And the spider will come out and move the cards in the direction of the cards, the stick and the stone. It is the way of how then Pierre Bolo could, one of the diviners who lives in the village, is able to give you an answer. Now going back to politics and American election, we were there when there was one of the questions they posed to the spider, if Trump will gonna win the second term. You remember?
No.
And the spider answered correct. That was the other time, was not this time, like the former. Okay. And the spider said no. Then Joe Biden came. This, I wish I could have the time now to ask again the spider. Because
someone go ask the spider, yeah.
But in every question the spider have answered so far have been right. Sometimes it take a time to to understand what she's saying, but so far all the questions have been. Now this project also, I mean, the particularity of this, if whoever is in the audience today or who like, when we went there, for me something very important to say, how, because I'm interested in spider communication, and people who love spider, and this place was very important for me. And then I was introduced by David Seidling. He's an anthropologist from Oxford who have studied this village and this spider divination for over 30 years. He goes every year to the village and he knows the local language, and he wrote 3 books about spider divination. I mean, we were already something who for a very long time have tried to understand that. But the way, for me, what was important, Andrew, it was how to approach that knowledge, and without kind of an extractivist mode, right? And it's been, we were hanging around 1, 2, 3, 4 days until, I think so, we were 2 weeks there, or 15 days. The diviner in one day said, "Oh, Tomás, I think so will be wonderful if you could do a web page for us where we could offer the spider divination service to other people and have our exposures of our knowledge through our means of having it." And this means then we, the project kind of evolved into really setting up a web page where the spider diviners can then now receive questions from different parts of the world. And then the IP, the intellectual properties, fully from them. Now, and one of the questions also, Andrew, says like how this work, it might last, you know what I mean, over the years.
Well, right,
I mean,
yeah, this is something I'm really curious about. Is I think there is this thread in your practice about how to make an artwork endure, and you've created apps or web pages or created foundations like the Aeroscene Foundation. Yeah, how do you think about that, keeping a work alive over the long haul?
Yeah. This mean in this case, also because, I mean, the village is small, it's a few thousand of people. They were really interesting. It was their request to set up this web page where they could receive more questions that, of course, also bring some economical gain.
Yes.
And, of course, also help to preserve their form of knowledge. And I think so it's quite important and crucial also to maintain that diversity also. Now, what we keep doing is helping, right? I mean, from one side, I'm kind of a dealer. This means I go around and saying, listen, when you have doubt about something, maybe you can engage with a spider divination process. And I mean, I'm kind of a person who kind of very fervently promote to other people to engage within another mode of communication with non-humans and so forth. But then I have to call Bolo, then Bolo receives the question, then from whatever language receives the question have to be translated to French, Mambila, and David. This means it's a long infrastructure that is behind to try to then the payment, how the money arrive.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And this means they do not have a bank account. This means now what we have been doing during the last 2 years is really like think about, okay, what happened when I'm not anymore there? And they want to maintain this webpage by themselves. This means what we have been doing together, a long process of setting up through these gatherings that I have within the village, with the chief of the village, is making workshops where they can really learn to upload the images, to download the images, to record the videos, to being able, to be fully independent, that they can then later sustain the work for much longer. As became people from another village nearby also that are much better. It came also like a patron of the, because every village have a kind of an endorsement of somebody who is recognized. This means now we are building a whole web of people who kind of are very affectionate with this mode of communication and then thinking the long term, I mean, how this project can be maintained, which when you think, for me, it was different because very simply I could have gone there and then just make a movie, show it at the serpentine, and then
right.
and the contribution is done, and then what is the economical retribution? You know, sometimes still academia, the way we write books, the way we expose some knowledge, many times do not arrive a feedback which is really beneficial also for the community who holds still that type of knowledge, right?
Right. So creating something that's really immersed in the community, and then as a result of that can survive. It sounds like. I mean, I'm really glad also that we've stopped on the spider divining, because it strikes me as such a key part of your practice that there's no hierarchy in the terms of the ways of knowing. I mean, you've been to NASA University, you've collaborated with anthropologists and scientists, and then you're also involved with indigenous traditions like this spider divining. I'm curious where that kind of curiosity and openness comes from for you, and why that's important. Where did that develop for you?
No, you're bringing spiders and one thing. When I was a kid, always I love also the Carl Sagan, right? With the Cosmos and
Yes.
the series that he was involved in. There was something out there or inside us that I think so was pretty important. And then, you know, within the time, you know, always you find these analogies that the spider web have some ensembles of geometry of the cosmic web, right? And then they go back and forth. And just in the planetarium yesterday, there was a movie at the Dome, and then they keep showing spider webs and spiders as a way of trying to understand these galaxies forming along the strands, like drops of water along the strands of spider webs. I mean, that was a little bit one of the titles of some of the work which came through this fascination. I show you an image. Yeah, here is one of the images from the planetarium that it opened yesterday, right at the entrance of the planetarium, and I think so. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's might be coming from dreams, from nightmares, from places which I don't think so. I'm so conscious yet, right? Sure. And I don't know the right answer. I don't know from where it might be coming, right?
That's a good honest answer to have. I mean, this is just what we're looking at here is astonishing. This is can you talk a little bit about this? So cosmic threads at the planetarium. I mean, this is a kind of reference to kind of string theory or threads in the universe, or what are we looking at precisely?
Yeah. Maybe I don't go to there was a very nice astronomer yesterday. He's a specialist on black holes. And we were talking about how much, I was curious to know how much politics enter into the discussion of black holes. And it was quite of an interesting moment. Mostly, I mean, what I would be interesting is a little bit to think about how the narratives of in certain spaces and in many planetariums, is coded with a certain directionality that many times now also the privatization of space agencies also are taking over.
Oh, wow.
Needless to say, when we hear some of the richest person in the planet, needless to say, Elon Musk, and when he think about still that he's thinking to colonize Mars, right?
Yes.
And then the space, you know, is so much about when I think so. The post-colonial studies never arrived to him or to certain community. They always think that America was discovered 500 years ago. I mean, you know what I mean? It's a level of ignorance, a level of and when you usually also enter many planetariums around the world, which I love them. It's full of symbols and flags of conquer,
yes.
Of arriving first to the moon and putting the American or the Russian or the competition. Is always, you know what I mean, so much a discourse. And this mean what for me mattered, the curator of the planetarium, and in this hall, you don't know what was full of rockets, of images of, right, of a certain wave of understanding space, or try to access space in a very different way than what Erosine and this community that we are trying also to work together is trying to rethink. This means some of these spheres that you see up here are kind of a reenactment, try to kind of bring back a knowledge that have been done by CNES. This French space agency in the 70s have been trying to do things with solar flight. Let me get this in for somebody.
We have to make sure we touch on this for.
Yeah, and I just show you like, well, let me see what it is. One of the image, what it mean a solar flight, and then we maybe we look at the Museo Solar 1 second to see.
Yeah. So for people who are not familiar with Tomás's Erosine project, I mean, this is an astonishing thing where they are doing flights with nothing but power from the sun, and it's not like, oh, there's batteries involved and solar power. It truly is through the materials involved, through the construction. Yes, lofting in the air. And you've set now, it's 32 world records or something like that for flight?
Yeah, exactly. It's something very simple. It's not something that I have invented, but yes, I'm a favorite promoter of trying to fly differently or to flow differently. And this means, it's just like a big envelope just for you, for the audience to grasp. And then this usually is another community project. Many people bring together, reuse plastic bag. And when the sun sometimes come out from the horizon, it's a sunny day, then the sculptures kind of start to levitate in the air without the need of a fire or a candle or a burner. It just, because its size is quite big, is able to float at the bottom of ocean of air. Just to think that the air.
It's quite incredible. I mean, how do you fund this? And I should say right now, if you go to Seoul at the Liam Museum, there's a project related to this. But how do you fund these kind of large initiatives?
Yeah. Let me, and yeah, good point. And then like what here is another project. What Andrew, you were saying, and then sometimes we do it kind of larger and bigger and with certain valves that are getting better and more secure and more safe, and then also people are able to lift up into the air and to be able to, and with that is the world record that Andrew, you were talking in the Jujuy, in the Salinas Grandes, no, with the communities there that are suffering the lithium extraction and all of that. How you found all the project? Well, we have set up a foundation which is called the Erosine Foundation also, that it has some benefit also within the tax system of Germany. And a lot of part of the project also, it kind of, it touched different avenues, and sometimes it kind of try to do not have kind of a direct commercial application within, let's say, into the circuit of art and galleries. Sometimes we also prevent to entering so directly to try to not commercialize and try not to give an economical value, but having another value which could be built within the communities that we work with. But nevertheless, also when then some of these artwork end up in the hands of the galleries, the way of distributing is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. This means 1/3 goes to the Erosine community, 1/3 goes to the gallery and the dealers who are involved, and 1/3 goes directly to the community. And this means in that case is something that we have doing already for quite some years, and I don't know. I feel always it was a happy moment of encountering different modes. Here, just I want to show you this image, that to understand a little bit. This was the moment in Argentina where we break 32 world records. Leticia Marquez was the pilot of the more sustainable flight in human history, recognized by the Federation Aeronautica International. And the communities in Jujuy wrote here this message on the sculpture: the water and life is much more worth than lithium, right? We are in one of the biggest reservoirs of lithium in the world, between Chile, Bolivia, and Argentina. There are these salt plains with a lot of lithium, and then it seems there's the same extractivist approach that have been done during the golden era, more than hundreds of years in the past. It keep perpetuating this violence to that communities. I mean, this is something that, yeah, here is the world record that the community very strongly kind of opposed, right? And that's where, you know, we're trying to work out some system there.
No, this project is incredible to me because, of course, up here, you know, in the United States, across the Western and Northern world, we pat ourselves on the back about the sort of green work we're doing and the batteries we use, and you've really been able to, in a constructive way, shine a light on the sort of devastation that can result through the mining activities, through the use of water as well. I mean, maybe a pivot here is just thinking about the sun. Your Serpentine show, which was last year, has struck me as one of the more radical exhibitions in recent years. I don't know if anyone here in the audience saw it, but Tomás set up a system. He set up solar panels on the top of the Serpentine, and powered the exhibition through that. And so on days when it was cloudy, you couldn't see parts of the show. The videos didn't run. At the same time, the air conditioning wasn't running, and I think you told the staff, if it's hot, if you're not feeling up to working, just go relax. Part of the exhibition space was opened up to the park that surrounds the Serpentine so that animals could come in. A very different model. I mean, again and again, you're building these models. And I see that, yeah, some Serpentine-related things are on the screen. Could you talk a little bit about that decision to make things weather dependent and to shape your exhibition around the climate rather than the reverse?
Yeah. No, thank you, Andrew. You're so well prepared. Let me put, I don't know if you see what I'm saying, yes, but this was one of the screens. Here is where we managed to put the solar panels, and here is the meter, where it tells you how much energy we were able to produce on site, right? And needless to say that it was so obvious, and I think so many artists have tried also to work out a system, because the Serpentine have this free rooftop which is not accessible. It was a perfect possibility also. And then solar panels got more and more efficient. Even within the weather of the UK, it was worth the investment and the way of how it could run. In a very sunny day, even if now here's a bit cloudy, we will get up to 5.7 kilowatts hour. And it's been based with that energy production. We thought that what will be interesting is to design an exhibition. And in this case here, you can see on the right side that it will run up to 3.2 kilowatts per hour. A big, for me, decision was that we could produce more energy than what is needed, and this energy we will give it back as this depth that, let's say, the Western world have towards other communities, and also the luxury that also sometimes arts hold and have. From one side we say, okay, we have that capacity, but we will not use it, right? We will use it less than what we need, and then we will give it back to the grid, right? Where other people can use it, and other people might be needed more than us. That was the first thing. And then the other is then later tune the whole exhibition with that maximum energy consumption that we have thought ourselves, and with that extent also then we have to recalibrate the whole show. We went, okay, every bulb, every light, every part which we hear is all number and all thing, and then we ask a coder, a programmer of different modes, right? And then you have heat waves, sunny mode, partially sunny and cloudy, and depending of the different weather, the exhibition will appear always different, and it will shift and will change, and some things you will be able to perceive and some things not. And also having it in mind that the exhibition was not necessarily always for only for humans, but really try to think that that the show also the participation were more than human, right? We built a lot of sculptures where the door were open and the dogs could come in and enjoy, and then other parts where only kids could enter, and this mean we have made some cut out, and this mean you know, was also I was always curious, Andrew, to think, you know, if an art critic will come, you know, in the section of culture, let's say in many newspapers, it will be hard to comment on to rooms that you will not be able to enter, right? And this means you will need to talk with kids to get their opinion, to then review the piece, because you know what I mean. And like this also with the birds, you know what I mean. Many of the sculptures were positioned in the roofs. You know, there are a lot of migratory birds who come all the way from Africa, you know, travel thousands of kilometers, and to also try to, you know, Hans and many, sometimes we evaluated the success of something, because we got, I don't know, 100,000 visitors. But I said to Hans, listen, we need to now start to count others modes of visiting and being in the exhibition. And we say, like, the biggest success was if a bird will nest, and then the promise also that this artwork will not be moved until the birds have also moved. And this means, you know, the obligation also on the responsibility of the collectors and of exhibiting works. We have different temporality, right? You see here on the top, you know, the different birds and when they lay the egg between April and June and so forth, right? I mean, you know, was a little bit to try to, and here are the, you know, here are for the bees, then every hole of every house, it helped to determinize the different species who can co-inhabit it, and this mean,
I love this. That timeline is very elegant there. I mean, with a lot of your work, but this especially, I just sense this this mission of kind of making people aware of themselves in the world, of time, of the migratory patterns of birds, or it's cloudy, so we can't see the work that day. And this sense of being put back in yourself in a very rare way, which I think art at its best can do. I'm curious, I was reading an interview with you about, I believe, those bird pieces, and you said something very beautiful, which was that you saw the kind of opportunity to make a habitat for a bird as it was a way of offering a sign of hope. And I'm curious if you could expand on that a little bit, about how maybe you see the artist's role or art's role as a form of hope, or a creator of hope.
Yeah. Just to finish, because a little bit also to connect, and I'm coming back, and maybe it's a way to answer that hope also. I get more and more addicted to this digital memory, this digital technology with mobile phone, and in part of the exhibition, when you want to visit part of it, we will ask all visitors to have access. You would need to leave your mobile phone at the desk, and you could not see the exhibition with your digital device. Of course, the people who have medical issues and things which really was needed, we will allow them to access. But also it's like, and that gives me a lot of hope. Let's put it away, because also even myself, every time I will have this routine that even while we were working in the exhibition, you know, you will enter and deposit the phone there. Also because in part of the exhibition, when it was sunny, as Andrew said, we will watch all this movie about, try to understand about the responsibility we have when we deposit so much of our memories into few people, right? And few corporations, and somehow it seems the ancestral memory start to really clash with this digital memory, right? And this means try to kind of give a pause also, and try to kind of enter other spaces that in that case, it gave me hope also, because I will even, many people then will leave the exhibition and, down in the exhibition road, 3-4 blocks after, say, oh my God, I forgot my phone, and they will need to come back to the show and pick it up. You know what I mean? Was kind of a performative thing, but it seems that, I don't know, when I did a meditation once, Vipassana was 10 days in complete silence, without mobile phone, without books, without being able to write and read and talk with anybody. And really, it opened up moments that it seems sometimes hard to imagine, right? And I don't know, I don't know if I remember, I don't know if I want to tell you the story of this. Should I tell you a story about hope, or what?
Yes,
you feel,
please, yeah.
Okay, let me stop 1 second here. Okay, I draw it just in case.
I mean, what you're saying about the photos is very interesting, because a number of museums, and of course many of the temples here in Japan, don't allow photography, and so I've been loving it. I've had this, at first it's just like anxiety, oh my gosh, I can't document this, I can't share this thing that's beautiful, and then it still does change things. As corny as it sounds, it's a game changer. I wish more American museums would go back to banning them. It's only the Frick collection in New York at this point. So.
No, it's absolutely true, and have more conviction on really trusting other modes of memories, of remembering things. No,
Yes.
It seems like we lost our own confidence sometimes to being able that even now with my own child, I'm with the phone and taking pictures 100 per day.
Oh, I am
right?
too. Yeah, constant. Yeah.
And then is we sometimes we I get lost, or we get lost, and I think so. There is a huge interest also on the corporation also to not put some limits into the level of addiction that this new technology it put forward, right? I mean, when I was a kid, it was obvious that my parents, and I think so most of us, you will allow to see TV for 1 hour per day, right? And you cannot watch it more. Now, governments, and we know the damage that it's producing, this digital technology, to the brains of people. It's comparable now. There are scientific studies that it's almost compared to the shot of heroin.
Yes.
At a young age in the brain of a kid.
Yeah.
And this but if the parents cannot regulate themselves, and there is nobody who tell me, Thomas, you cannot use the phone more than 1 hour per day, because I got addicted. How I can regulate kids? And I would say, let's not a naive discussion, because I think so there is a huge interest of certain big multinationals on not talk about it, and it's a political economical agenda, right? Needless to say, look at Trump, how much Elon Musk endorsed Trump, because he knows that he will be very weak in the way of how regulated will be digital space, right?
Yes.
And it is unbelievable how direct this entanglement is being it's been so obvious now, right? Of the promotion of fake news, how much economy they produce and bring up, and I mean, it's the disruption of I don't know, Andrew.
Entirely.
I wish good luck to Americans.
Yeah, we need it. It is interesting that, yes, you look at someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who has children, and he doesn't, as I understand it, he and his wife don't allow anyone to show screens to their kids. And so, yeah, the ruling powers that be have very clear views on this, which thankfully you were able to highlight in the exhibition. Were you just drawing something, or were you going to share a story about hope? Said, or?
No, I always draw this attention in this experiment that they did in the, I think so, 70s, on trying to find how resilient sometimes an animal could be. Still, there is some degrees, a little bit of cruelty, but no animal have been death through the experiment. And what they do is like they have there's a barrel of water, right? And in this barrel is a 200 liters of water. It's quite tall.
Yes.
They will put a small rat here to swim, and then this animal will swim until there's a moment that it got really exhausted, and then it will stop swimming and it will drown, right? And I mean, this might be, I don't know, a couple of hours until the animal, it will give up, right? Because it's so slippery, the edge, that it will not be able to get out. Now, and I mean, this is, they repeat it many times and say, well, usually you could swim 2-3 hours, and then there is no any more energy to be able to try to find out ways to escape that barrel. Now they repeat the same sample, and in this case they put two rats swimming. They swim. They are reaching, both of them, the edge of resilience, of resisting, of being dead. But what they do then, they put a small bridge, and one of the rats, one of the animals, can get out. Now the other one is still inside there, but have seen that there was an escape. Now, the other one who stay there, who have swum the same amount of time, how long it now swim? Between 2 and 3 times more.
Wow.
Is it from where it get that energy, right? What by standard was only 2-3 hours. Now, this animal now swims 7 hours because it's so, the possibility of escape, it's so, let's say, the light or whatever, you know what I mean? And sometimes what I'm saying, for me, like certain communities, certain cultures, certain ways of relating and understanding certain artworks from colleague artists, it showed me that escape, or not escape, because otherwise we are escaping, this dream.
Sure.
But that path, it gave me again this compassion, or this perception to keep moving and not get drowned in this mode of the sadness of what the world is, with 2 wars and
Yes.
and what's
No,
going
and
on.
exactly. I think it can sound fanciful, but I think that art at its best can be that bridge in some way. It can at the very least present other possibilities, other ways of being in the world, and maybe that leads to kind of maybe a closing question, because I've gotten the alert that we're down to 15 minutes, and I know we had said maybe give some time for questions. So a final question from me would just be kind of what you see as the long-term goals for your work, or with something like Aeroscene. I mean, the technology's improved. You're able to do it more safely. Your artwork is becoming, it feels kind of more adventurous and experimental and open to the world. What do you see as the future for it, and what is your big goal right now with your practice?
Yeah, no, this big question, Andrew, is very
Sorry, yeah,
hard
it's a
to
big
answer.
one, and I didn't throw you that one in advance either. Yeah.
Because it's hard sometimes to be able to, and mostly because they adapt and they shift and they change within time.
It's not
right?
one thing.
Then,
yeah.
And then I always try to respond to certain discussion and certain engagement within the space and the time that we share. But yeah, I mean, just only because sometimes the King Stanley Robinson, the writer who wrote this trilogy, Mars, and many other books, he always said one of the best forms of technology, it should be justice, right? It's been what this it bring me is, sometimes we always think that technology and justice, they are decoupled, they are separated, they are like we are so fragmented, and sometimes also one of your question was, is art separated from activism and so forth, right?
Yeah.
That we have no touch, and I think so sometimes, even the fragmentations of knowledges in a certain part of the world have been so wide that sometimes we don't relate that this work is political also. This work also touch on social justice. And then we rely on other systems to bring this other part
Yes.
taxpayer or other thing. And we kind of segregate and separate it of mastering that what is given to us, right? Okay, you are doing art, and when you cross the other one, oh, then it's activist. When you do, oh, but this is politics. While we understand, if we keep separating the things, the way it's separating, look at climate change and the collapse that is happening by holding that form of knowledge. This means I think so is urgent. They need to rethink where it start and end, my own discipline and my own engagement, and then it's a trial and error, because sometimes you go too far and you think, oh, I'm you always have been then attacked with oh, you're a scientist, or this is science, this is art, or this is politics, or this act, you know what I mean? Then it try to confine your practice as a mode that sometimes I don't think so helpful today,
Yeah, and that's something that I love about the work that you've been doing, is that it is forcing people to reckon with what they don't know. It's making people, I mean, in the art world, we get so stuck in this box of very minute issues, and you are inviting us to open up to science, to philosophy, to indigenous traditions, and reordering, I think, values. I mean, a quote, we didn't delve into it, but a quote I love from you is that we should view Elon Musk as one of the poorest people in the world, because if we're a world that values things like community and sharing and bettering the world, this is by that standard a very poor person. And so we see this again and again in your work, is a kind of almost turning on one's head about what to value, and thinking about justice even as a technology that could be improved and perfected. I think everything you just said might be a perfect moment to kind of pivot, and because we do have just a couple minutes, if there is any question from the audience for Tomás. We got one hand up. Yes, good, excellent. And a microphone is coming to you.
Hello, hello. Yeah, thanks so much for your time. I'm really still kind of tangled up in the whole spiderweb story, but I was really fascinated to hear about these webs and this sort of web as communication, and thinking about how different that was, and then to immediately hear about kind of the web behind this project, of how many channels and strands that the language would go through, the way of money making its way through here, all these webs of people. I guess what I'm kind of hoping to get at is, I wonder, do you think, are we so different from spiders? Have you learned more about the people, about the world, from the way these webs connect things? Something along those lines.
Yeah. No, wonderful. Just to, I don't know how to answer that question. I only can say that by the time that Emilou was born, now he's 4 months old, a very good friend, arachnologist, Peter Jäger, who have named more than 400 species of spiders, have named a spider who live in Southeast Asia with the family, have now name of these spiders are called Saracenoi. My last name is Saraceno, and he named it after me because of so many years we have been working and adoring and appreciating spiders and spider webs. This means maybe the first part of the answer is now, part of my family also is not only humans, but also spiders. You know what I mean? Following the tradition of these cultures who really do not separate the natural world, and they have a very different cosmovision. They have brother and sister which are non-humans. The plants, they are treated like really alive, and they talk to the plants and they nourish them, and the mountains have names, and this goes hands in hands of how the Western world also is trying now to deal with the rights of nature, that the rivers have rights, and we are trying to advance now in the legal and political system of expanding the understanding of the world through cosmologies, which we really have segregated and neglected for so many years. But now we are trying to see how the political system can kind of really start to understand, and the entanglements between the worlds is so crucial and fundamental. With yeah, now I get lost. You see myself into the answer, but
so maybe
yeah.
it sounds like humans versus spiders. It sounds like different, but it sounds like what you're kind of getting at is maybe we are learning, hopefully, from nature in some way, small ways.
Yeah, but also we are learning from let's say nature, because otherwise it's we. Okay, well, me, a white person living in Germany. I mean, yes, this is maybe a part of who is learning, because we are learning maybe also not only from spider, but from cultures who have a different relations with spider for many thousands of years. Let's say one thing which have helped me also to understand that relationality is that there are 5% in the 5% of the population of the world today that still is considered indigenous cultures and First Nation people and so forth. This 5% of this, which represent the 5% of the whole population of planet Earth, where these people live is where you find the richest biodiversity in the planet. This means in Ecuador or in some part of Brazil, when nature is abundant and so many plants and species, and you know what we're talking about, extinction now, where you find a lot of biodiversity is where these people live, because they are able to nourish and to maintain and do not separate nature from their life as in other culture. This means sometimes is really like, for me, the web is also as an analogy of trying to think that, these, that spiders, when do not weave the web, they are not able to sense and eat and feed themselves, right? Because they don't, it's kind of weaving their own mouths for them to be able to sense the world. This means you have to try to think that many cultures have related to resources, and even we call them resources because we want to extract them and use them in a certain way, when still so many others, they're not resources, and other beings that you have to relate differently. They are your brother and sister, and they are not resources to fuel these modes of living who have alienated so much of cultures that. And this means spiderweb for me is always bring us that thing, and I don't know. Yes, then I do a lot of scientific things. We publish 2 times in Nature magazine. We also scan digital webs, and we try to really focus precise in different modes. But yeah, in general is yeah.
That was a great question. Thank you for serving that up, because that lets us kind of cut through other things that are going on. I received a notice we are almost at the close, but are there any other questions? Oh yeah, good. We got one more.
Thank you very much for your time and talk. And I'm actually joined this talk session very middle, so I'm sorry I can miss some of the talk session. But I was actually saw your artwork in Towada Art City on Clouds, and on last Tuesday, and I really impressed your thoughts about the architecture and new networks like spiderweb and the borderless, the living style in the coming future. So can I ask your the idea or the opinion about the coming future, about the how people living with the borderless, or how people living with your ideas?
Yeah. I it's a complicated question now where what is happening in the world today, and we have to be very careful about sometimes certain ideas of freedom also do not bring the respect or the borderless that also is required to understand where something can start and end. I can maybe just put it a little bit in a personal note, but I've been born in Argentina in the north, and then there was a political system at that time, a dictatorship government, which have killed a lot of people and were not allowing then my family and many other families to live in that country. And for that end, I was living in exile in Italy for 12 years, and then was allowed. My father then was a prisoner, also then was set free, and then when came back the democratic government, we were allowed to go back to Argentina. I was 13 years old, 12, 13. And this means I've been always kind of in between places where sometimes it was very hard for me to belong, because as a kid, a lot of bullying and saying, oh, but you are not Italian, you are in Argentina, when I was in Argentina, but you're not an Argentinian kid, you know what I mean? And then have been blonde and with blue eyes, and say, then when I came back to Europe, it seems always was in a place that it seems was not the place that people could expect, right? And then, part of this, it came with ideas also like, okay, what are the freedoms that other species have also with their mobility, right? And sometimes, there are a lot of freedom on moving capital and money, but when it's allowing people to move and to sometimes follow seasons as the hunter and gathering have been doing on being able to do things at the right moment, at the right time, that you will eat a certain diet in winter, in summer, and then, what I mean, the domestication of agriculture and domestication of the sun, who end up also in a certain thing. I think so is something that I think so the way of how sometimes we set the limits of the geopolitics of the planet do not overlap with also where how many rivers needs to flow, and really mean, and how waters need to stream to be able to sustain life on this planet. I think so it's a lot about renegotiating on how spaces can be shared and created among the whole diversity of lives which is today on the planet, right? And I think so that there are certain colonialist histories in this planet who seems from the past, but it kept reverberating so strongly today in many parts of the world.
Yes. And I think that might be thinking about renegotiation and rethinking boundaries and rethinking what it means to live on this earth is what your work is about, what this theme of this fair is about, and probably the perfect moment to end on here. Will everyone join me in thanking Tomás for doing this early in the morning in Copenhagen, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you.
Thank you, Tomás. Super fun. Good luck with everything. Ciao.
Thank you, Andrew, very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
それでは時間となりましたので終了とさせていただきます。皆様ありがとうございました。でこのトークは、オンラインでも配信とアーカイブがされていますので、どうぞ引き続きお楽しみください。また ACK トークスでは明日、明後日ともに引き続きさまざまなテーマのトークを展開していきます。引き続きよろしくお願いいたします。